So let's go to San Diego now, who finished last year on 10th, in 10th place on 25 points, didn't qualify for the playoffs. They fired Shield winner Casey Stoney in the middle of the year, had two interim managers after that in Paul Buckle and Landon Donovan. And then President Jill Ellis left to join FIFA after being accused of creating an unsafe work environment by multiple former employees. So a lot going on. Last year in the offseason, they have acquired 8 new players who have never played in NWSL before. Ken Zadali and Adriana Leone are the big ones from Aston Villa. Gia Corley comes on. We saw Delphine Cascarino come in last year late, and then 2 rookies named Trinity, one Trinity Armstrong from UNC, and the other Trinity Byers, who most likely will be out of the year with an injury. On the outbound, I don't have to tell you because everyone knows. Naomi Girma set the record, the first over $1 million transfer in women's soccer history. Jaden Shaw was traded for a record trade fee at $450,000, and they lost 6 other players, including, of course, Alex Morgan, who retired midway through the year last year. Off the field, the big news is Jonas Eidevall is the new manager for this squad, coming over after a couple of years as the head coach of Arsenal to take this club in a new direction post Jill Ellis. And unfortunately to note, Snapdragon Stadium now has a new tenant on top of the Wave and San Diego State football. So Louisville, I don't know, get the field ready in case you need to move a game or two at some point. Jordan, what do we think the soccer will look like on whatever that field looks like?
Yeah, well, maybe that's the biggest question. How does the field look? Because you might have to adjust your tactics because of that. But for San Diego, I would say for the first couple of years of their existence, really good defensively, relied on direct attacks to beat opponents. And then this last year, they tried to add some nuance when Casey Stoney, even when she was there, but especially when she left, tried to be more of a ball-playing team. It left them exposed. They gave up the most goals. They couldn't capitalize on the chances that they had. But with Jonas Eidevall, I'm imagining we're playing out of a 4-2-3-1 or an iteration of that. It's interesting to see if San Diego can be a ball-dominant team. They added some pieces, I think, especially in the midfield, that can allow them to do that. But Jill, big questions on if those pieces are going to adjust to NWSL, the demands of this league week in and week out, and how hard every single game is. A lot of question marks around San Diego.
Yeah, I think San Diego is the biggest wild card this season, coming up in this season. This is a franchise that was built on the shoulders of Casey Stoney's defensive mindedness and her tactics. I mean, their first selection was Abby Dahlkemper to the franchise. Then they bring on Naomi Girma and Kaylin Sheridan, and of course, Alex Morgan up top. But I mean, Dahlkemper gone, Girma gone, and now I feel like this season is going to have to be one of the best seasons of Kaylin Sheridan's career here in San Diego. Who's going to score goals? I mean, Alex Morgan wasn't in her best form in the last few years, but they were finding ways to use her to create some space for others. But then, you know, when Stoney gets fired, they bring in Landon Donovan, who had a complete opposite way of wanting to play. Very high risk, very high reward. Well, I mean, he wanted it to be high reward. He wanted to force teams into a low block and get everybody in there attacking third, and that left them so exposed, especially after the Olympic break. I thought defensively in transition, they were dreadful, leaving their best players in on islands having to defend. I thought Naomi Girma didn't have a great second part of the season because she was left to do so much emergency defending. Kaylin Sheridan was playing in a very uncomfortable style, high off her line, where under Casey Stoney, she was more a reactive goalkeeper, numbers in front and around her. So, yeah, big question marks. A biggest wild card going into this season is San Diego.
Yeah, new coach, a lot of new players, a lot of young players. I don't know, historically that feels like that has been a recipe for success in this league. So it will be interesting how quickly everyone gets up to speed, but also the thing that I've been thinking about is there was so much turmoil from like just a human standpoint last year that maybe all the newness will reinvigorate them, allow them to just feel like, okay, it's a complete fresh start. Let's, build off of some of the things that we have. But with a new coach, I mean, maybe it's just like, okay, we're going to start completely over, go with a new identity. And then that freshness will be enough to at least hopefully get them in a decent spot this year. I mean,
you're the optimist of the group.
I'm trying to be optimistic because I'm like, goodness gracious, I do like Trinity Armstrong. I'm excited about to see this young player from UNC come in, but that's a lot on their shoulders, especially when you have Kennedy Wesley as well, who's just going to be a second year. If those are the two starting center backs, I was trying to piece together what their starting lineup was looking like from some of their preseason games. That's not always a great indication at all. But yeah, I think it's going to be challenging. I'm going to be really curious to see what this identity and how it shakes out is going to look like.
I would hope for the fan base, and I don't know, it feels like this team will at least be fun to watch, even if it's not super successful and you have these new attacking pieces. Jordan, we've talked about Delphine Cascarino a ton of just like individual flair and must-watch potential.
Yeah, you have to play her on the right side, right? We saw her play on the left side early with Landon Donovan, and she can create in that situation, but her best spot is in the right winger. And so can you build around that? My question is, Jonas Eidevall comes from WSL, a league where he was top, 3, maybe 4 in the league. Like, Arsenal was such a successful team that now you're coming into a team where you're going to have to build. Success is going to be a lot more difficult in this league. How do you continue to build your tactics when things aren't going right? It's a question mark. And I wonder, I think we all wonder, but I like some of the pieces. I like bringing in Dali. I think she's going to add a lot to this front line, especially with the French players around her that they can put in, get into attack. So questions, but I feel like they're going to score more goals than they did last year, but that's not a hard number to beat, you guys.